Everybody to Engage 2022. It is a blessing that we were able to come out here and spend some time and look into the future. I also want to encourage all of you to just go back and forth and get juice and coffee and donuts as we progress through the meeting. So feel free to get up and get whatever you need during the meeting. So let's open up in prayer. Our God, we are thankful when it is warm. We are thankful when it is cold. God, whatever the weather is, you are in our midst, caring for us and leading us. And as we go through this time of Engage 2022, may the Holy Spirit lead us in our conversations. May our conversations be holy. So God, let us continue in fellowship in the glory of your name. Amen.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's so good to see you. It's good to be back in here where it's nice and warm. But we are glad that you are here. We have some exciting things we want to share this morning and things we want to go through and go over. So I hope you're ready. We're going to do some really neat things. For those of you that are joining online, welcome to you. At some point, I'll see if Sean can do a tight shot of the donuts so you can at least feel like you're eating one if you're joining us online. But we are glad that you tuned in that way as well. A big thanks to Diane for kicking us off this morning. And this morning, I want to do something a little bit different than what we've done in these before. I want to talk about the importance of who we are and what we do and put in front of you again our mission and our vision and all that great stuff. And I want to do some behind the scenes stuff so y'all understand what it takes for a church like this to do what it does. Because in reality, it takes so many people to pull off what happens every week here at this church. And I think people don't even realize everything that goes on. And looking around this room, almost every one of you are part of that back behind the scenes group of people that make it all happen. So in the world we live in, we need to realize that everything communicates, which means it's not just the message that we share, but for example, it's the clothes that we wear. So we can look around this room, anybody could walk in off the street and look around this room, and what would they be able to tell? It's cold outside, right? Just based on how we're dressed. How we dress communicates something. Our attitude communicates something. The way we stand communicates something. The light in the room communicates something. What we put out on social media communicates something. And I could go on and on and on. The list continues and continues and continues. Studies have shown that because we are so distracted as individuals and because we're pulled in so many different directions, that when we meet somebody for the very first time, we decide what we think about them within the first 8 seconds. Think about that. Think about that. That's 8 seconds right there. So you've made a decision already about what you think about a person within the first 8 seconds. You haven't heard a single thing that they have to say. You don't know really who they are or what they think or what they believe. But in today's hyper-busy, hyper-distracted, hyper-competitive society, we have changed our behavior to figure out that we can make a decision about somebody within the first 8 seconds that we meet them. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, well, why is he telling me that? Well, here's the deal. Pastor Diane and I can give the most anointed sermons by God every week. Our worship can be the most powerful and wonderful experience in the world. But in an 8-second world, what was your parking lot experience like? You think it was a coincidence we were all standing out there in 0-degree weather saying good morning? No. Last year for the fish fry, we had one of the top fish fries in the entire area. Why? Because we were outside greeting people from the time they were out on Highland Road all the way through the parking lot until they got their food. So here's my question. If we do that for a fish fry, why don't we do that on Sunday morning for church? Why don't we do that on Saturday night for church? Don't we want to be that welcoming so people feel like they're cared about from the time they actually pull off the street into our parking lot? Beyond that, what was their experience or your experience like when you first walked into the building? When you first walked into the lobby? When you first walked in over on that door? Was it dark? Was it light? Was it welcoming? Did the TVs work? Was there somebody saying hello? All these things go in people's minds when they walk into our building, and they haven't even gotten to one of the worship spaces yet. They haven't even been to one of the worship spaces yet. They make a decision about our church before they ever get into our sanctuary or before they ever get into our CLC. It's automatic. We also need to realize that almost 100% of new people that come to our church check our church out online first. There's some of you that are new in this room within the last, I would say, year or so, or 2 years. Before you came here, did you check our website out and our church out? Just show me your hands. Yep, look, see? That's the new way it goes. That's why we drive everybody to the website. And you might think, well, why do they keep talking about the website? Because people in our community look there before they come here. And if that doesn't tell them what we needed to tell them, or tell them a story that is enticing for them to get more, then they're not going to really jump in. Even what we're not communicating communicates something. Everything communicates something. I mean, that's why we put on the webpage, on the homepage, what we put on the homepage. For example, how many of you get the Thursday email? Okay, almost all of you. If you don't, go to the homepage and you can sign up for the Thursday email because that's how you know what's going on. How many of you get the digital announcements that come at about noon today? Okay, great. If not, go to the website and you can get the digital announcements. That means that when somebody goes to our homepage, they know exactly how to get connected before they ever show up. They feel welcome before they even show up. And then if we can add on top of that, them feeling welcome when they do show up, then we got a shot at actually getting them into the sanctuary and getting them into the CLC. And then we have to do outstanding worship because that's what keeps them. So it's not that we're doing away with doing outstanding worship, but we got to do a great and good job of getting them there in the first place. Now, here's what I'm learning. Communication is a two-way conversation. Sharing the message is important, but just as important is making sure that the message is received, right? So let me explain what I mean. Who knows what our mission is? Tell me, just tell me. Okay, good, let's do it again. Building inclusive community, sharing Christ transforming love. I think we do a pretty good job of getting that out in front of people. I think it's pretty much everywhere. It's on our walls. It's everywhere we go. Here's my question for you. As leaders in the church, because that's what you are, how do you react to our mission? Now, we have people with microphones that are sporadically through the room, and if you're online, you can share your thoughts on Facebook, and we'll be able to share those thoughts in the room. So I don't want you to talk until you have a microphone in front of you, but how do you react to our mission? Just raise a hand so somebody can come to where you are. Okay, we got one right here. Here she comes. Run, Karen, run.
Well, to me personally, it means that everyone is welcome, everyone, no matter who you are, no matter what your walk in life is.
Okay.
And that we want to share Christ's love with them.
Okay, perfect. What else? Anyone else? Over here, Karen, to your left. Mark.
I view it as a multifaceted statement, and I think I fail on the first one. I'm not sure that I'm particularly inclusive, but I do like sharing, and I do like participating and being part of it.
Okay.
And so
Good.
I try to focus on the second.
Awesome. Maybe another part of not just how you react to the mission, is it meaningful to you? I mean, it's obviously meaningful to us as a staff and in leadership, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't have it, hopefully. But is it meaningful to all of you? Or have you even thought about it? Again, communication is two-way.
Definitely had a huge influence on me and my husband when we were thinking about joining.
Okay.
The statement was really important to us.
Okay.
And I shared it with friends and family members out of town. They thought, oh, that's good.
Awesome. Cool. Up here, Karen.
Thanks. I'm one of the newer people you mentioned.
Yeah.
Went to the website first, saw that statement, and with 3 teenage kids, that statement was why we came here first. Because with kids today, especially, as you mentioned, Mark, for us, it's the first part of that. With kids today, having an organization that talks about inclusion, critically important to me and my family.
Awesome. Anyone else? Up here.
For me, I found that when I first read the mission, I found it was personally challenging to me, because I had to think for myself, what do I consider to be inclusive? And then I am always constantly trying to strive for it and push myself a little bit further to think, what other ways could you be inclusive? So
Sure.
it drives me to be better.
Sure. You know, one of the things about inclusive that we have to be careful of, inclusive doesn't mean people change their viewpoint to believe the way you believe. It means that we welcome people from all different viewpoints, even if their viewpoint is different than ours. That's the hard part about inclusive. Inclusive isn't making everybody the same. Inclusive is actually encouraging people to be different, and then us showing how to work together within that diversity. Do you know why we believe in our mission? Anybody? You know the rationale behind it? I mean, I've preached on it multiple times, so clearly you are all paying really close attention. But this is my point. I'm not being mean about this. This is my point. This is why communication is two-way. Because we can preach it till we're blue in the face, but if anybody else doesn't get it, it's not worth it. It's not accomplishing what we wanted to accomplish. So our mission, just so you know, comes right out of Matthew 28. It comes out of the Great Commission, which says, "Then Jesus came to them and said, 'All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age.'" That's an awesome statement. That's an awesome challenge that we should all be living into. That's a hard thing to remember, and it's really hard to put on all the walls and everywhere else that you're trying to put it, because people turn it off. Remember, 8 seconds. You have 8 seconds. So the staff and leaders of this church, and by leaders I mean church council, SPRC, finance, all those groups of people that help lead the church, when we put this mission statement together, we spent hours in prayer. We spent hours in discussion, trying to figure out the best way to encapsulate that passage into a statement that could be put out, that people would resonate with, that people could get behind, and that people could believe in. And where we ended up was building inclusive community, sharing Christ's transforming love. That's why we have the mission that we have. It's biblically based and hopefully easy to remember. And you guys passed with flying colors because y'all knew the mission statement right from the get-go. You might have not known the why behind it, but you knew the mission statement right from the get-go. Now I'm going to test you a little bit even more. Who can tell us besides me, besides staff, I don't want staff to participate here, what our discipleship pathway is? Here we go. What do we got? Connect, grow, and give. Anybody else recognize that? Everybody else know that? If you came in this door, do you remember seeing it right there on those 3 pillars? Connect, grow, and give. So when you hear the word connect, what's that mean to you? Karen's ready. All right, there we go.
Get involved.
Get involved, okay? What else? Did I see a hand over here somewhere? Somewhere? No? Oh, get involved. Okay, said the same thing. Any other? Oh, here we got another one for connect.
To me, it's about fellowship and getting to know, develop relationships with the parishioners, other folks, and leadership and staff.
Okay, great. Right there. What she said? Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Good. Anyone else? Connect. Over here. Karen, to your right. Oh.
I would say make new friendships that last, even in church and out of church.
Okay.
In the community.
Awesome. Wonderful. So when you think connect, and when I say the word connect, I want you to think big. Like if you think like a funnel, think the top of the funnel, right? It's for everybody to come in. It goes with the inclusive part. It's we want to get everyone we can connected. And that can connect in a variety of ways. It can be coming to a Wednesday night dinner. It can be coming to a worship service. It can be coming to something like this on a Saturday morning. It can be whatever it is, a barbecue in the summer, a work day, whatever. There's all kinds of ways that we can get connected. The next step on the discipleship pathway is grow. So when you hear the word grow, what do you think? Nobody. There we go. Hang on. Right behind you.
Well, I think the growing stage is where you get involved then. So after you've met the people that you find some commonalities with, then you try to find where you might plug in.
Okay. Okay.
And hopefully with, not necessarily volunteering, because that's not how you kind of enrich yourself, but maybe doing some things for yourself first.
Gotcha. Good. Right behind you there, Kelly.
I think for me, my faith journey started later in life. So for growth for me, I started with the fellowship here, but I've grown in my faith because of the interactions that I've had with other people. So for me, growth is that the growth of my relationship with God and the church, I guess.
Awesome. Right over here.
I'm going to second that. It's about growing in your faith and your walk and becoming more like Christ as you walk every day.
Okay. All right. Right behind you there.
I would say 2 words that go with the word grow or thrive and expand.
Okay.
In everything that goes on around us.
Sure. Going back to that funnel, when you think about connecting, you can connect at a church and not necessarily grow, right? Like it's pretty easy to connect somehow, some way, in some fashion. Even if you're just a friend of somebody who comes to the church, you could actually feel connected. You know how many people come and participate in our fish fries? They're connected to the church. Now they might be growing this way, but they're not necessarily growing in their heart. You know what I'm saying? But when you get to the grow stage, that funnel gets a little bit less because it requires you to do a little bit more, right? For yourself. So not as many people grow. Hopefully a ton of people connect. Our goal is to try to get as many people to get on the pathway and move from connect to grow. Then we get to the last part of the pathway, which is give. Now, when you hear the word give, what do you think? Money. Of course. And Heather didn't even have to say it. Heather, your work here is done. They have figured out that give means money. That is true, and we couldn't do any of this without money, clearly. However, what else can give mean besides money? Time? Talents? Resources?
Just giving of yourself.
Giving of yourself? Love? Relationship? Support? Using your spiritual gifts. Man, she is not a plant. She did that all on her own. That is awesome. So I'm going to just jump right off of that. By a show of hands, who has taken the spiritual gifts assessment? That's awesome. If you haven't, please take it. It takes a little bit of time. The Steelers are out of the playoffs. You got nothing else to do. Like, take your spiritual gifts assessment because it helps you understand who you are. And as we go through the rest of the day today and this morning and talk about the different things, and as you get a behind the scenes look, if you have already taken your spiritual gifts assessment, I want you to be thinking during that time, oh, I could maybe jump in here, or I could maybe do something here. And if you haven't taken your spiritual gifts assessment, remember everything we've talked about, so when you do take it, you're like, oh, I could jump in here. Now, tell me, just by a show of hands, who'd be willing to stand out on a 0-degree morning on a Sunday and hold a sign? Yeah, that's great. That's great for the staff that all have to be in here working. Keep your hands up. Keep them up. Kelly wants a picture.
Everybody put them up. Come on. All right, I know who all of you are.
So here's the thing. When it comes to giving, the thing about giving is it's no longer about yourself. It's about other people. That's what giving is. Whether it's giving your money away, whether it's giving your time away, whether it's giving your warmth away, whatever it is, it's about giving to other people. Connecting is about you. Growing is really about you. Giving is about others. But if we can't get people to move along the pathway, then we don't have anybody helping bring the people that need to connect and grow along. That's why it's so important that we move from connect, grow, and give. And I would tell you that our pathway is really kind of circular because it's not a finished product. You don't get to give and then you're done. You go back to connecting again. You go back to growing again. It's a constant process. You know, one of the hardest things about giving or volunteering or serving is letting somebody else do it. Because we love to serve, right? I look around this room, I've seen all of you serve, like across the board in some way, shape, or form. You know the hardest part? When new people want to serve in our role. That's tough. But that doesn't mean you're not needed. That just means you have to step back, help them get plugged in, and hopefully we need more than just one person to serve because we're growing as a church. And we can find another way to connect. So it's not about being not needed, it's about really working yourself out of a job. Because if we're working ourselves out of a job, then how many more people are stepping into those jobs? And more people are getting involved. You all like this church the way you like this church because you're involved. So you have to be willing to kind of step back and let other people get involved so they love it the same way you do. Does that make sense? All right, so you guys are pretty good. You got the mission down. You got the pathway down. Can anybody besides a staff person give me all 7 vision points of our church? Okay, I figured that. I would argue that probably the staff probably couldn't either. And I would say that because I can do it, but I got to really think about it. And I wrote them. So it's one of those things that doesn't just roll off your tongue. But when you hear them, I think you probably know them better than you think. So I'm going to take just a couple of minutes, and we're going to pass out a piece of paper that has all of them on it. And then we're going to hear from our staff about some of those vision points. So while we're passing out the paper to all the tables, grab another donut. Remember, we want you to grow. And if you're done growing that way, grab a banana or yogurt or orange or whatever. And we'll get going here in about 2 minutes or so. All right. Finish up grabbing your coffee, your donuts at home. Make sure you've stocked up and are ready to go. All right. So online, you're going to be able to see the points point by point. You don't obviously have the paper, but you're going to be able to see them as we talk about them individually. So you can still stick with us and be okay. Anybody know why you have a vision? People get mission and vision and all that kind of stuff confused all the time. Do you know why you have a vision? Direction. So you can what? See ahead. Very good. What else? You know where to aim. Because if you're not aiming at something, you hit it every single time, right? Why else? You know, one of the things people don't realize what a vision does, it helps you understand what you shouldn't do. Not just what you should do, but what you shouldn't do. Because if you're trying to fulfill your vision and you're doing things that don't help you do that, you're not going to be as effective fulfilling your vision. So on the left of your paper, you have, on the right, upside down. On the right of your paper, you have the 7 vision points. Our first vision point is engage and connect children in ministry and service opportunities via the discipleship pathway. So I want to invite Janet to come up and share with us how we try to fulfill this part of our vision. So Janet, come on down. Just in time.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am so excited that in the Children's Wing, we love to provide opportunities for our children to grow and become engaged. On Sundays, on Wednesdays, we love for them to feel the pull and the growth of connecting with God's amazing, transforming love. We're talking about engaging. And I want you to know that that's not something that's done in a bubble. So we work to connect our children with friends, with fun, growing and learning as a group so that they can thrive in this inclusive environment here at Christ Church. We love that we're learning about our spiritual gifts because in Christ Kids, no matter what your gift is, we definitely have a place for you to serve. We have service projects. We pray with our children. We praise in song with our children. We read Bible stories with our children. We learn verses. We play games and do crafts. And the success of our ministry is the success of the whole church because we know that our children are not only the church of tomorrow, but they're the church of today. Children, statistics show that children come to Christ by the age of 18. 85% of children come to Christ before the age of 18. So that the success of our ministry rises and falls on our engaged and loving volunteers. We love our kids. We would love for you to find a place in your heart to be engaged with our kids in some way. Jesus said, if you welcome a child in my name, you're welcoming me. So I would love to see you all as you get engaged in the church. I would love to see you get engaged with our children's ministry.
Thanks, Janet. So back to the 8-second thing that I talked about before. Those of you that have been here, you know we did a major renovation to the children's ministry wing as part of a solid foundation. And I know some people were a little concerned that what we were doing there. I want to share a couple things about that and just how God is working. That $250,000 upgrade, somebody walked into my office and gave me a check for the entire thing. So it's paid for. That person clearly has the gift of giving and clearly has a heart for kids. But you know what else is really exciting about that? Nancy Osmond, our preschool teacher, who is wonderful, and we have an awesome preschool program, she had a meeting the other night for kindergarten. So preparing for kindergarten. So the kindergarten teachers from Peters, Upper St. Clair, and Bethel were all here. And they all went through our facility. And they said to Nancy, we give our right arm for our schools to do what you have here. That is an unbelievable facility. Do you know how lucky you are? We're gonna be sending kids your way whenever we have an opportunity. 8 seconds to make a difference in someone's life. It's not about what it looks like, other than that draws people in. What keeps them in is the work Janet does behind the doors that nobody ever sees. The lessons, the verses, the teaching. And it takes all of us to help pull that off. You think we need a lot of people to pull off a Sunday morning? Think about how many people we need to handle 90 kids every hour. And here's the deal, you might not even like kids, and you can still participate. And here's why. Here's why. We need people to help check people in. So you can just stand there and check somebody in and never have to talk to a child. But that means somebody who likes children can be with the children, and they don't have to be out there checking people in. So there is a spot for everyone, and if that is part of our vision, then we gotta put everything we can into making that happen. It takes all of us. The next piece of our vision is engage and connect youth in ministry and service opportunities via the discipleship pathway. And I'm gonna invite Heather Schaafstall, our youth director, to come up and share with us some stuff about youth.
Good morning. So when you're in youth, you obviously get to sit at the youth table because, you know, we kind of travel in a pack. So one of the things that when I came here just a few years ago for Christ Youth that drew me, other than Chris saying you need to come work here, was the mission statement. Knowing that a church had already did that legwork, that it was already here when I got here, is huge. I've been involved in churches that had no idea what their mission statement was. And that eventually led to the demise of some of those churches. So having that mission statement was huge for me when I walked in the door. As the leader of Christ Youth, we actually took that mission statement, and if you go to our website and look at christumc.net/youth, you will see our mission statement at the bottom of that page, along with some of the things that we value in our ministry, because we put a team together that brought our ministry values into how we gauge everything that we do. But our mission statement is Christ Youth, through a foundation of faith, equips our students on their spiritual journey by partnering with parents and families to build inclusive communities, sharing Christ's transforming love. So how do we do that? How do you get involved with that? Sunday nights. We are meeting as a group Sunday nights, middle school and high school together, because I find it valuable to have the high schoolers mentoring into those middle schoolers, and the middle schoolers seeing how they can grow in their faith through those high schoolers. We have choir still. Sunday afternoons, they practice. We also have the Christ Youth Band, who has renamed themselves, I believe, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Right now, they're still Christ Youth Band. They are doing some amazing things. We also have a tech team that we have put together of the youth to teach them how not only to run that booth back there, but also how to do video, how to share not only their faith, but what we are doing as a church. We use a program called Grow, a curriculum called Grow, and we focus each quarter on something different. First quarter is spending time with others. Then we go into using your gifts. Third quarter is spending time with God, and fourth quarter is sharing your story. So we really focus on those four to teach kids every summer to go out in mission, in some type of mission trip. We take 2 separate mission trips every summer. One is for everybody. The other one might be limited because of where we are going and what we are doing, and some of our mission partners only take certain age categories. So that is something that we do every summer, but not just during the summer. I work with Gina Marr very closely on how we can be in mission all throughout the year. We also have Wednesday nights, which everybody thinks of spaghetti dinner on Wednesday nights for our fundraiser that we do once a month. But we also have in the fall short-term Bible studies. In the spring, we do more of a game night, more of just a gathering right now. And then in the summer, we move to Wednesday nights. We spend Wednesday nights together rather than Sunday nights together. Then we also have confirmation on Wednesday nights. This year's confirmation class is about 29 students. So that's up from years in the past. We also have our Impact Mentoring team, which is our student mentoring team that is grades 10 through 12. Those are the kids that mentor into the younger students, and I give them all kinds of stuff. They actually plan our spring retreat every year. And then, like I said, we have retreats, we have missions, we have all kinds of stuff going on. So I love that this church supports not only the children, but also the youth in how they can engage. We have a small number of students back there today, but I've been to churches where there's not a single student that would show up at something like this. So this is cool to be able to have the students want to be here and want to be involved in the life of the church, because they are not the church of the future. They are the church today. And we need to make sure that they feel welcomed so that they can connect, grow, and give also.
Thanks, Heather. It's awesome that we have such a strong children's ministry program that feeds into the youth program and that continues to help just grow our church as a whole. And we are excited about that. And we have to be willing to step outside of our comfort zone and get connected and involved in those areas, because without our help, they can only get as big as their nets can hold. So we got to help them have big enough nets that they can hold as many kids as possible. The third point in our vision says we are a church that reflects the community. Now, I just want to explain that's real simple to explain. We study our community. And by study our community, I mean we have demographic studies. Because we're a United Methodist Church, we have access to a program called Mission Insight. We can put in a parameter around this church, and it can give us everything we want to know about the people that live around this church. The average age, the average family size, the average income level, the average education level, their political viewpoints, what religion they are, what race they are, all of those kinds of things. We look at that regularly. And you heard me say this in a sermon a couple of weeks ago. The biggest demographic of people around this church within a 5-mile circle is between the ages of 35 and 45 with 1.5 kids. Still can't figure out how you have a kid, but that's the biggest. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not other demographics, but that does mean that that's the largest demographic. So it's not a coincidence that children and youth are important in our vision, because that demographic is right around us. If we didn't have anybody of that age in our demographic, it wouldn't make sense to have that as a vision point in our church, because we wouldn't be able to access those kids. So we look at those things. It constantly changes. This area, if you don't know, is a highly educated area. Over 75% of the people that live around this church within 5 miles is college graduates. The socioeconomic level in this area is high. It doesn't mean that there's not people here that are hurting financially, but as a general rule, that's not the case. It's not where we live. That's not the demographic. But I want you to know that as the leadership, we're looking at these regularly because they change regularly. So we look at it all the time to make sure that our church reflects our community. That's how we make some of the decisions that we make. The next vision point is much more fun. We want to be Christ in the community. And it's so much more important. I mean, we got to know what's around us, but it's so much more important that we are active in our community. So I'm going to invite Heather Hancock to come up and share a little bit about why this is so important and what this may look like. If you want to plug giving, they seem to be okay for that too.
Oh, I do have a speech for that too, but hello everybody. I have a question for you. Who walks into a room, throws up their arms, and says, I am a follower of Jesus Christ and I go to Christ Church? No one.
I do, but you pay me to do that, so it's good.
No one. Then how do people find this out about you? That's my question. And that is also the challenge to all of us for this vision point, be Christ in the community. In order to do this, we also have let's see here, let me start again. In order to be Christ in the community is more than just helping out once a year at our awesome event, Christ in the Community. Probably not a coincidence that it's the same name, but that is actually a training ground for all of us to kind of learn and experience together how we can do Christ in the community and be Christ in the community. There are so many other ways we can, on our own, on a regular basis, give of ourselves to others and give to our communities. Hopefully, as we all raised our hand, many of you have taken this spiritual gifts assessment, and this is a great way to identify your strengths. Start off with something you do well. That's always an easy way to start, and apply it to your surroundings. Let me just give you a couple of examples. See if any of these resonate with anyone who's taken the gift assessment. If you have the gift of encouragement, encourage the distressed and provide positive and practical steps to follow. If you have the gift of faith, believe God's promises and act with unwavering confidence in carrying out God's will. If you have the gift of helps, help others be more effective in using their gifts. And of course, if you have the gift of giving, demonstrate the ability to manage money, talents, and time to honor and glorify God. These are just a sampling of some gifts. There are many other gifts that hopefully you will all figure out which one you excel at. And in closing, really what I want to say is think about this. You may be the closest that some people come to knowing Jesus. So, when you see people, do they see Christ in you? Do they want that special light that shines and radiates from your relationship with Christ? Do you invite them to join you here at Christ Church? Now, these last questions are sometimes the hardest. Are you open to seeing the opportunities God puts in your path? Do you take the time to look? And most importantly, do you act on the opportunity to truly be Christ in the community? That is the challenge of this vision point that we are putting in front of you, and really hope that we can embrace it as a community. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, one of the big examples of being Christ in the community is our pet ministry. Anybody connected to our pet ministry here? So our pet ministry used to have a big fair here at the church. They decided to take that fair and put it down at South Park so they could be out where people were and didn't expect people to come to them. And they touch and reach so many different people because of just a little step like that. So it's just a matter of us going to where people are and not always expecting people to come to where we are. That's why that vision point is so important. Now, the next point is a super important point for us as a church. And that is to impact the community in the first steps of our Mission 10-10-10. And Mission 10-10-10 stands for 10,000 people, $10 million over 10 years to missions. Because missions is vital for a church that is growing. We need to not just be about what we're doing here, but we need to take what we're doing here and share it everywhere else. So I'm going to ask Gina Marr to come and share some things we are doing to live into this point of our vision.
Good morning, everyone. So as the Director of Missions and Outreach, it's my responsibility to bridge the resources of our congregation with the needs in the community. So by those definitions, resources, I mean all the things we've talked about: time, talents, financial support, as well as leveraging the networks that you all have to assist individuals in the community and organizations. The mission and outreach team feels very strongly that serving and being in the community is part of our spiritual journey. It's not optional. It's part of the DNA of who we should be as Christians and who this church really is. We have a strong network of people who are willing to give their time, their talents in the community. So I thank you for that. The outreach team is designed to provide support, encouragement, reel me back in when necessary, to move the congregation forward in serving in meaningful ways. There are a lot of things that we can do, busy work, and sometimes that's necessary, but it's about being in relationship. That connect part is almost more important than the outcome of a particular project. There are a few people in this room who have gone on volunteer and mission teams to distressed places. There's been a natural disaster, and we rebuild or we build something brand new. And what is more important than the roof on the building is the time that is taken to hear people, see where they are, and also share Christ's love through our presence there. Missions and outreach does support the other areas in Christ Church that serve. I've been delighted. Janet's had a project where the children have collected money for a milk cow, for a dairy cow, not a meat cow, for the mission in Nigeria. And that's so important that children hear that early, the importance of giving and what that means to those kids a world away. My experience has been through my MYF days, so that totally dates me. Methodist Youth Fellowship is a way old term. But that's where I learned to serve, to be energized, to feel like I had something I could give to others. And I know many of you have had that experience through your church, here and through your times as a child. So we've done the spiritual gifts inventory. And I kind of wanted to take my two boxes off and hold them up here. So administration and helps are my spiritual gifts. And if you've taken that and read some of the attributes of administration, it means very detail-oriented. So I have spreadsheets and documentations. Like I am chief on logistics. And I'm glad that other people have the vision, but I do have the passion to put those plans in place. So I ask you to think about your spiritual gifts. For me, I can plan a project, get you all the materials, and cheer you on. What is it in your life that energizes you? In what ways do you choose to serve? I just happened to see Karen, and she caught my eye. So Karen Cahall is taking over some financial responsibilities for the Nigeria Connection, and she is using her gifts of numbers to be able to do that. That would never be a role they would put me in, just so you know. So she has used that skill to help further the mission of that project. So like I said, we helped Janet to encourage the children to give, whether it's VBX or bringing in money for a cow. Then youth, I'm really excited what this next Wednesday, the youth will be doing a project for Global Links. And so the youth will challenge the congregation, much like last year, to make hygiene kits at home. You don't have to serve here. It doesn't have to be in our building. And the youth are going to challenge you all to be a part of that process. I think we've got a goal of maybe 200 hygiene kits by the end of Wednesday night. But we will be looking for ways for you as a family to share that with your book club, with others who aren't part of this church, so that they can see how you put your faith in action. We support discipleship. There's a women's retreat in late February, and we'll be looking at supporting Hello Neighbor through that. So we're going to bring mission into every aspect, and it has been part of so many of the things that we do at Christ Church. Chris gave me don't have a 5-minute conversation with your boss in the hallway. Just don't do it. So Chris challenged me right before Christmas to think about all of our mission partners. And by mission partners, can anybody give me an idea of one? Daily Bread, absolutely. Where else? SHIM, South Hills Interfaith Movement. 8th Avenue Place. The anti-racism team is an organization within our group. Yes, John Wesley would be one of our partners, John Wesley United Methodist Church. Global Links. So there are a variety of organizations that we have long-term relationships and commitments to. Commitments financially through our budget, commitments to volunteer on a regular basis, to serve food, to be in fellowship. And so Chris has challenged me and my team to look at every month, kind of around the third Saturday, Sunday of each month, to bring to you a mission focus. So you have a clear understanding of where you can plug in, where the church has committed their time, their talents, their money, and to celebrate the amazing things that happen through you as disciples here at Christ Church. So you may have heard a lot about the anti-racism team. We just had an amazing soup sale. Thank you for participating in that. Next month, we're going to celebrate the Nigeria Connection. For 15 years, members of this church in the region have committed to work in Nigeria, in Zimbabwe. We continue that work going forward, but we need to celebrate how much has happened based on the relationships, the financial support, and the growth that has happened. So next month, we'll focus on that. There may be people from that volunteer in that area that you can talk to. How do you plug in? How do you support? How do you get involved? There will also be opportunities throughout the month, and I could go all 12 months, but I won't. For example, UMCOR, the United Methodist Committee on Relief, will be highlighted in March. I will invite you to join me in the community square during our fellowship time to put together kits that then go to places that have experienced disaster. So we hope to educate, to celebrate, to serve, and to get you involved in opportunities to use your time, your talents, and your resources. The one thing we talked about was Christ in the community. And let me tell you, August to September, I pretty much lose my mind. It is a wonderful opportunity for us to be visible in the community. But I really need to count on you. We've had challenges the last 2 years because of COVID in being able to be out in organizations. I need you to partner with me to share who is that neighbor, who the widow who needs a little extra help with her yard work. We put gutters on a house 2 years ago. I will be relying on you all to share with me who in your sphere has a need, and then how can I empower you and give you the tools to make a difference there. So as you can tell, I love mission and outreach. I'm blessed to be able to use the spiritual gifts God has given me in my profession and at my church, but it's so easy. So easy to connect. Use our website. The missions page will have running opportunities to do at home, to connect. If you're passionate about something and don't know where to turn, I may not coordinate an activity, but I can share with you volunteer opportunities in the community where you can be that light out there that demonstrates your commitment to Christ and to Christ Church. So feel free to call me. Our information's on those sheets, and I'll stop talking.
You're good. And I never have a 5-minute conversation with Gina Mar in the hallway in August and September. I just stay out of the way when that's going on. Are you getting excited about what we're doing as a church? I mean, seriously, children, youth, missions, understanding our community, having opportunities to go out into the community. For example, Bethel football just made national news because they went and shoveled driveways instead of weightlifting, right? It was awesome. Well, we could do the same thing. We all have neighbors that probably, I bet you on your way home, you could find a neighbor that hasn't shoveled their driveway yet. I'm pretty sure. Those are just examples of what you can do as you step out into the community. And Gina Mar does need your help to know who needs help, so we can go and help do that. Daily Bread was mentioned, I believe, as one of those things. Daily Bread provides meals 3 times a week. 3 times a week for the population in the inner city that is food scarce. When we talk about Daily Bread, wouldn't it be awesome if we had enough volunteers to provide meals 3 times a week for an entire month so they could have that taken care of and not have to worry about it? Like, those are the kinds of things that we want to be doing as a church to make a difference in people's lives. But in order to do all of those things, if we're not growing, we don't have the capacity to go and help other people. Because back to our connect, grow, give, if we're just stuck in connect, eventually that all runs out. So our next vision point is, oh, they moved my notes around on me. Our next vision point is about growing disciples of Jesus Christ. Because if we're not growing, we don't have the ability to go out and share with others. So I want to ask Kelly Black to come and share things we're doing to live into that part of our vision. Yep, hold the top.
I hold the top.
Yep.
I'm so bad at that. I have lots of spiritual gifts. The ability to hold the microphone in the right way so it doesn't cut out, it's not on that list. Welcome, good morning. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to see all of you getting engaged for 2022. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about discipleship. One of the things that excites me most and that I love most about being a part of this discipleship ministry here at the church is that we are all on the same road, right? With the same destination. One of the most challenging things about being a part of the discipleship ministry is we all sort of like to veer off that road in different ways in order to get to that same destination. So we all learn a little bit differently. We all connect a little bit differently into the Bible, into our readings. We connect with one another differently in order to get to the goal of being a follower of Christ and being the most dedicated follower of Christ that we can be. So what does that kind of look like in practice? Well, last year, who did the Bible adventure last year? Yay! So the Bible adventure was a thing that we did last year where we took everybody in the congregation through the Bible in 1 year. And we had multiple ways that you could connect to that adventure, right? We had people that came on Sunday mornings and heard the sermon every single Sunday morning, and that was the way they participated in the Bible adventure. We had people that read every day at home, but that was their way to participate. And they read in sort of at home on their own. They pondered, they prayed, they listened to what God was saying to them through that scripture. And then we had people who joined small groups and who thought, the way that I need to grow in my faith through this Bible adventure is to be a part of a small group. And so they joined groups. And then within those groups, we had different ways of learning. We had groups that focused on the sermons and the sermon notes, and they asked each other questions about how the scriptures that they were reading had been referenced through the sermon and what that meant to them and how that was helping to grow in their faith. And we had groups that focused on C3, which, if you'll recall, was our Wednesday night programming online, where we talked to some experts in the field of theology. We talked to some staff members who were involved in the day-to-day runnings of the church, who had something to say about what we were reading that week in Scripture. And so we had people that were engaged through C3 and learned through C3 and became a more dedicated follower through that ministry. And then we had people who just needed to connect with other people in the context of a small group. They needed to be able to read themselves, but then be able to hear what other people were saying about that reading so that they could grow because other people were also reading at the same time and reading the same things and sharing opinions. So we had all these different ways to grow, but we were all on this one Bible adventure together. And the exciting thing for me about 2022 is we're doing it all over again. Not the Bible adventure, but we are doing spiritual gifts in 2022 so that we can all, again, be on that same pathway of being able to connect to God and connect to one another through this pathway of discipleship. And we're all going to get there a little bit differently because we all have different gifts. So the network here of discipleship at Christ Church is that we have lots of opportunities for you to learn. We have Sunday morning, Sunday school classes, and we're in the process of creating more learning opportunities now that we have a different worship structure that starts tomorrow morning. The goal is to have different learning and discipleship opportunities for you at every worship service so that you can come and worship at the service of your choice and then stay an hour or come an hour early and have a learning opportunity. We have Wednesday evenings where we offer short-term classes, usually in the neighborhood of 4 to 8 weeks. And they are on a variety of topics, sometimes a variety of scriptures. And we are trying to kind of reach you where you are in your walk so that something resonates with you and you want to learn more about some of the topics that we talk about. We have used Wednesday night as a large group opportunity too, if you participated in the Joseph study that we did in Advent, where we studied collectively the impact that Joseph, this guy that is only mentioned in 17 verses of a 31,102 verse Bible. If I remembered nothing from the Bible adventure, I will remember that. I'm just kidding. I'll remember a lot. That's my boss. I will remember it all. We studied collectively as a large group in this space, and we offered opportunities for people to learn online who are not able to come to the building. We also have small groups. Our network of small groups here is called Christ Groups, and we have a dozen to 15 of those that meet at a given time. They meet weekly, they meet bi-monthly, they meet whenever it is convenient for the members of that group, but they study, they encourage one another, and they learn. And so what does that look like in the context of spiritual gifts for 2022? None of those things can happen without people using their gifts to make those opportunities available for people who are looking to connect to discipleship. So let me break that down a little bit. Let's say you want to have a small group. Well, you have to have a teacher, right? That's kind of obvious. So you need somebody who has the gift of teaching to be able to teach whatever is going on in that group. But you also have to have somebody who has maybe the gift of teaching, but a different passion or a different ability in the way that they demonstrate that gift. So let me give you an example of that. I was talking with somebody this past week about the results of their spiritual gift, and she said to me she had the gift of teaching. So immediately I was like, I have known you for 20 years, and I did not know this about you. You are going to teach a small group. And I screwed up, because what I didn't say is, what are your passions? What are your abilities? Which is part of that, right? And she said to me, but no. My passion and my abilities are much more in line with research and learning about it. So I don't really have an interest in being up front or being the key person, but I would love to research whatever it is we're talking about. I would love to know more about it, and then I can be a specific voice in that group, but I don't want to be the one that coordinates it. I don't want to be the one that leads it every single week. So we need people who are passionate about learning more and going deeper to provide more in the context of a group. And then we need people who have the gift of hospitality, because if you've ever walked into a small group and not been greeted and not been welcomed and not been encouraged to go get a donut or to get a drink or to say, oh, it's so nice to meet you, let me introduce you to everybody else in the group so that you feel welcome, are you ever going to come back to that group? So we need people with the gift of hospitality. And then we need people with the gift of evangelism. Because you can have all the teachers and you can have all the leaders and you can have all the people with hospitality, but if you don't have the person who has evangelism, who's going to go and talk to somebody and say, you need to hear about my small group. You need to know why you need to be in a small group. You need to know how Jesus works through this small group to help me grow as a follower of Christ. then you aren't going to have anybody in the small groups. So those people that have the gift of teaching and leading and hospitality can't use their gifts effectively. So what we're looking for with Spiritual Gift this year is to help you all get connected to this discipleship pathway, to learning opportunities. Because you may not want to teach, but there are so many other ways that you can get connected into that ministry. And if you're not ready to use your gifts in that way, that's okay too, because we have opportunities for you to learn throughout the year, for you to connect with one another, for you to connect with God, scripture, through theology texts, through topics that interest you. But the goal is always the same. The goal is to grow closer to Christ in our relationship. And so if you want to get connected to that discipleship ministry, there are plenty of ways that you can do that and get engaged in 2022.
Thank you. So we're trying to get it all covered. And we're trying to get it all covered so we can do what God has called us to do. And that document that you have in front of you, you're going to see a lot, because that's the guide that we're using to live into what God is asking us to do. And our final vision point is to be strategic in all that we do. And if you've been here for more than 3 weeks, you know that I like acronyms as a pastor. So strategic stands for something. And I just want to hit on those real quick so you have an idea of what overarches everything that we're doing. We need to see forward. We need to see what's coming. We need to see where we're going, how we're going to get there, ways to connect in new and ways that can help people. So that's why we're trying to keep things in front of you. That's why we're trying to be Christ in the community. That's why we're trying to reflect our community. We have to see what our community is going to look like. Teach the Bible. If we don't do that, we got nothing. That's the foundation of everything that we're doing. That is what leads us to be inclusive. That is what leads us to be loving. That is what leads us to give of ourselves. If we're not learning from God's word, then what are we doing? We're just another social club. We need to be relationship driven. That's relationships with each other, like in this room. That's relationships with people around us in our other spheres of life, our jobs, our families, our neighbors. But we're relationship driven, and it's all led based on our relationship that we have with Christ. This is a tough one. We need to adapt to the culture. That's hard. That doesn't mean give in to the culture. That means adapt to the culture. This past Thursday in my Bible study, we were talking about the 7 churches, the 7 letters in Revelation to the 7 different churches. And each letter is written basically because the church is doing something wrong. Most of them are doing at least one thing right, except for one, they're just a total mess. But they're all doing something wrong. And it led to a conversation about adapting to the culture, because 20 years ago, how this world looked is not how it looks right now. And I was part of the forefront of the people that were trying to fight to hold Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings for church. Because 20 years ago, Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings were for church. Now, Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings are for sports, youth sports specifically. That's when they play. And we tried to get that to not be the case. It's the case. So as a church, we can either say, well, that shouldn't be the case and ignore it, or we can adapt to try to do something differently. We didn't go online as a church for the pandemic. We went online before the pandemic started because that's a way that families who were doing sports on Sunday morning could actually still connect to our church online when they're at whatever tournament that they were at. My daughter played basketball at one of those places, and I would get text as I'm preaching about that whole team watching our service in between their games. It's about adapting to the culture, not giving in, but adapting to the culture. We're team driven. If you haven't noticed, it takes a whole bunch of people to make it work here. And when we do the tour, and I want to encourage you all to do the tour, and if you need help getting around, we will help you get around, and we will go slow, because you need to see what it takes to make this place work. And it takes a team to make it work. Extreme hospitality. You've heard this. The next sermon series after Spiritual Gifts is going to be about extreme hospitality. That's why I had the people here this morning when you got here doing what they were doing. That is extreme hospitality. The definition of extreme hospitality for me is we give more than people expect. None of you probably expected anybody to be outside greeting you on your way in this morning at 0 degrees. You probably didn't expect the pastor standing there opening the door for you if you came in over here. That's probably not an expectation you had. However, hopefully, it was probably pretty nice when somebody was waving to you on your way by or opening the door for you. That's what extreme hospitality is all about. It's about going beyond for the people who are coming in so they feel welcome beyond what we could possibly imagine. Obviously, the G, grow as disciples. You heard Kelly talk all about that. The I, impact the community. You see that in our vision in a variety of ways. And then the C, the last one, the hardest one probably, is to constantly evaluate. Constantly evaluate. That's how you get to where you're trying to go. Because not everything is going to work. The staff will tell you, I will never get upset if something fails. I will never get upset at someone if they fail. The only time I'll get upset is if you fail the same way twice. Failing means you're trying. That's all that means. But if you don't learn from it and you do it again and again and again, that's when we're going to have an issue. But you can't do that if you're not constantly evaluating. That's why we made the decision to change the worship times, because we were constantly evaluating what is going on and what isn't working. We're going to keep evaluating. And if we have to make another adjustment, we will, because we're constantly evaluating what we're doing. If we're not doing that as a church, we can't be as successful as God wants us to be. I always miss why the church doesn't do what other people and other organizations do. I grew up playing sports. After every game, we would sit and watch the tape of the previous game. And hopefully, you didn't make too many mistakes, because it was called out right there when you did it with all your teammates. How come we don't evaluate that way? I don't know. I mean, I sit down and I watch the service and I think, oh, I should never do that ever again. That's awful, right? And hopefully sometimes it goes well, but that's how we get better. But it's not done in a mean way. It's done in a way that we're saying, hey, let's try this so we can reach more people. So what you have, I want you to keep with you. And you're going to see it and you're going to hear it again and again and again. We're not coming up with new finagled ways to follow God. This is our blueprint for how we do it. Right in the center are the names and email addresses of the people you heard from today. So if you got a question, email them. Or go to our website. You can find the entire staff, or any other question that you have can be answered usually from the website or by calling the office. But there is so much that we do that we haven't even talked about. We didn't even talk about pastoral care. That's not a vision point. That's just an everyday thing that has to happen all the time. And Pastor Diane is at the forefront of that, and we're making some changes there too. Sandy, where are you? There she is, Sandy Danley. Y'all know Sandy, right? Sandy's going to be our new director of congregational care. So if any of you have the gift of being an administrative assistant or know somebody that does, we'll be hiring one of those here shortly. But as the director of congregational care in a church this size, you know what? We set our pastors up for years to fail when it comes to pastoral care. Because when I get appointed to this church, you know how many people I know? Nobody. So when I come in and I'm supposed to go and care for somebody, I don't know who I'm caring for. I don't know their connections. I don't know who they know. Sandy knows everybody. And Sandy has the ability to be able to say to Diane, to me, to Sean, or to whoever else, hey, so-and-so is in the hospital. You need to go see them. And here's what you need to know about them before you go see them. So when you get there, it looks like you actually know who they are. Because in a church with 2,000 people, that's hard to do sometimes. But Sandy has the ability to be able to see that to fruition. And we've had this conversation. She keeps telling me she's going to retire in like 5 years. I keep telling her no, she's got to go till she's 72. But if she's going to go in 5 years, part of her job is to find the next person to replace her. Not because she's not important, but because that role is so important. We got to have somebody in it that knows people. So when you get new pastors, they're set up for success, not failure. That just makes the church better. So we're excited about what Sandy's going to do. We're excited about pastoral care. We're excited about what God's doing in this church. Now, before we stop and head out and do our tour, anybody got any thoughts, questions? You want to take 5 minutes so you can all sign up for everything you heard this morning? We're set up in the back to be able to do that. Everybody understands everything. It's awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming to this portion of this, because this hopefully gives you an idea of what goes into determining what we do as a church. It's not accidental. We don't flip a coin. We don't wonder. It's all been thought through, prayed through, ran through the different leaders and organizations to try to take us where we need to go. For those of you that have joined us online, we appreciate that you've joined us online. We don't have the capability quite yet technologically to take you on a walking virtual tour, so I apologize for that. So please reach out. I'd be glad to take you on a tour and give you a behind the scenes look personally whenever you'd like to do that. So we're gonna say goodbye. Let's all say goodbye to everybody online. Goodbye. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you in worship either tonight or tomorrow or online again. So we were glad that you joined us that way.